Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kerry Writers Museum and to a beautiful session that I'm having with Áine McGibney. Áine is from Cavan and she's the current All Ireland storytelling champion for the Fleadh Ceoil. And was that age group 13, Áine?
It was kind of mixed up because it was Fleadh Fest
Yeah.
and not really normal one.
Yeah, I know, well done anyway. We're
Thank
so
you.
proud of you, and everybody's going to see very soon your storytelling powers, which are immense. So you took part in there's so many different strings to the storytelling bow. And that story that you won with is a very old traditional Irish story, which is amazing. And we might get you to tell that at a future date. But then last week you took part in story making. And I suppose storytelling is a living tradition. So stories change all the time and they change with the times. And I think you're just as good at making stories as you are at telling stories, which is a rare find. So I'm really delighted to be able to give you this platform to be able to tell that story that you told to me last week. So this is completely your own work, and I love it. And I'm sure everybody else will as well. So I'm going to let you tell the story. So would you like to tell the story, Anya?
Okay. Now, this story is about a young girl. She's about 16 years old and she's from near where I live. Now, there's this small forest now, but it was this big, humongous forest years ago. And this girl is 16. She lives in a wee cottage near. Now, her dad passed away a few years ago, and she's quite upset about that. But she lives with her mother and her brother and her young little dog. Now, she loves this dog to bits. But the one thing she finds is every time she walks the dog in that woods, she feels some kind of thing magical or something different than any other woods she's been in. But she has no proof what it is. One day, her brother came home from working in the county museum, and he came home with a dangerous weapon. This weapon was lethal, and the mother was raging. She roared and she screamed at them, and they had a roaring match. But in the end of it, he dropped the sword which he had brought home and killed the dog. The girl was devastated and she went running for the forest, not sure if she'd ever return. She ran into the forest, her heart was pounding and she was bawling. When she got to her favourite tree, she stopped and she sat and she bawled for hours and hours on end. But at one stage she heard her name being called. Flora, Flora, Flora. Who's calling my name? She says. It's me. All these magical creatures standing around her, she hadn't even noticed. She knew it was something magical, but now she had proof. They asked her what was wrong, and she explained to them the whole situation. And they said, well, I can offer you something. You can come and live with us, but you will have to make a sacrifice of going away from your family and becoming one of us, which means you have to leave your human life behind. The girl didn't really have to think about it much. She said yes, knowing she would have to leave her mother behind. But it was better for her. So she turned into one of them, and a couple of weeks later, her mother found her body laying on the ground. She was devastated. Her mother was absolutely devastated and knew it was her brother's fault.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. And it's the start. It's the start of this story, you know. So I'm left with questions, which is a great way to be at the end of the story. So if I was to say to you, how do you think she got on with the fairy folk in the forest? How do you think she got on? Would she ever regret her decision?
I don't think she'd ever regret her decision, because I'd say she's happier with them than she was living without her dog and her dad. So I think she would maybe miss her mother, but I think
Yeah.
she may be happier.
Yeah, so she's there now living in nature. And of course, you were telling me last week that that was a good few years ago, maybe 100 years or so.
Yeah,
Do you think the nature will have survived? Do you think there'll be a road through her forest by now?
I don't know.
See, that's loads of room for the next chapter to that great Flora story, you know. So, did you enjoy the experience, Anya?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Do you think you'd use it as a mechanism to make more stories?
Yeah,
Brilliant. You know, so we'll see you again in Kerry Writers Museum.
yeah, hopefully.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to stop the recording there, but for everybody else, I'm going to stay on chatting to Áine. So we'll say goodbye to everybody out there in Cyberland, and we'll talk to you all soon.